Hey, Zerm listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's see what happens and see what comes out of my face as I watch.
And maybe I shouldn't have gotten so drunk, but I don't think Yara, really understands how much she hurt me and how worried I am about our future.
Then we have a real problem. I'm telling you right now. If you're gonna do this to me, we're gonna get divorced. Because I do not wanna be with that. I'm washing my hands right now.
Okay, it's hard for me to know the landscape, and it's also hard for me to know if this isn't played up for the cameras. I've been burned before, seemingly along those lines. This doesn't look manufactured, and we could imagine that this is legit because what Yara is saying is that, so Yara and Jovi continue to talk about the conflict regarding her having taken birth control without telling him, and he said some things that were concerning. There's nothing wrong with him saying, hey, it just hurts that you didn't tell me, and it hurts that you don't trust me. And he did say things along those lines, but it starts to get into this territory of that your body is under my control, and you can't do that unless we agree. And also, Yara was saying, it's hard to know what's going on behind the scenes, but Yara was saying that, every time we talked about having a second kid, I would say I didn't want to, and you would, or I didn't want to yet, and you would pressure me, and you would never let me allow that to maybe be on the table, that maybe we don't have another kid right away or ever. So there's a possibility that for Jovi, if Yara would have said, hey, Jovi, I'm going to tell you, I am not ready to have a kid right now, and I know you really want one, but it's just not going to happen. And we can revisit it in a year, but for now, I'm going back on the pill or birth control, and that's just the way that it is, and I'm sorry, but that's my boundary. We can talk about it in a year, and maybe I'll change my mind, but that's off the table. There's a world in which Jovi would have been like bummed, but would have been like, oh, okay. And Yara never did that because she is not the sort of person that feels she has the right to do that, or she was socialized to believe she doesn't have the right to do that, or she believes that she should be able to say things that are less strong and be heard, kind of a thing. There's another version where even if she said that, he would have just escalated, right? And maybe she did say something like that. I don't know. But my impression is that he believes that as they were arguing about having another kid, he was advocating for himself and pressuring. I think he even admitted that. But at no point was he saying, and that's final. I will get my way or else. He doesn't really come across like someone that's like that. So it's possible that he thought, hey, I was just advocating. And she never told me that she was that upset about me advocating. In fact, I thought she might want to I thought she was kind of on the fence. And it's possible that she would say, I was very frequently saying how I felt, and he just never incorporated that. I was hoping that he would, like she might say things like, I don't know, I'm on the fence, but I'm just really worried about our other kid and about my body and finances, and it's just a lot. I don't know where we're going to live. There's just so much of I'm really worried, and there's a lot of information there. And she's hoping that will hook him, and he'll say, okay, message received. But it's not really a strong message like the one I role played, where it's just like, it's off the table. And there's different ways of communicating about this. One you could call more like emotional but passive, passive but hopeful that the other person will hear what you're ultimately saying, but you're not ultimately saying it because you don't want to be so strong. You don't want to be so rigid, but you kind of are rigid. You're hoping that the other person will be convinced. And there's nothing wrong with that style, but the con to that style is when you interact with someone who has a different set of understandings and paradigms regarding how communication, how negotiations are made. And there even could be some gender associations here. The con is that it will be received as there's an open door and that there's flexibility. And that, if Jovi's like, I 100% want another kid, and my wife is like 50%, so maybe there's some movement there. Whereas Yara could be like, I was 100%, but Jovi didn't receive it that way. Now, maybe there's some problems. There seemed to be some evidence that Jovi wasn't listening. That's her whole point, is that he wasn't listening. But it's also possible that he was in his way, but just, this is why people come to couples therapy, is that I can watch them and ask questions and figure these things out, and then help them to understand each other, help them to communicate maybe more directly, help the Jovis of the world to listen more, take some more time to understand. Because, the way that it kind of looks is that Jovi didn't care about her feelings and was just like, we're having another kid and I don't care how you feel about it. I don't think Jovi's like that. He certainly could come across like that. I think he puts on a front sometimes, but I think deep down, both of them are actually relatable human beings that we could relate to. People who care, people who have a heart, people with relatively low amounts of childhood traumas that would affect their ability to empathize and see each other and not be triggered. So there's that whole scenario. But then we're hearing that, so they had that fight last night, and then he says, he starts walking in a different direction, and she's like, where are you going? And he's like, I'm going for a walk, which I immediately thought, oh, he's going to go drink. It would be normal for him to do that anyway, I think, because of the stress. I think, a lot of people who have chronic drinking problems will almost automatically have to drink under stress. It's such a habit of theirs, and they have a really hard time with their emotional pain and stress, and it's the one way they've coped with it their whole life. It's actually a huge thing you have to account for when you're going through recovery. If you are trying to attain sobriety and recover from alcohol or whatever other drug you were using to numb the pain, marijuana included, is to not only account for what you're going to do when you get stressed out, but to understand that for a long time, the stress and the pain and the anxiety is going to be severe. The way to think about it is that when you're 13, right, you feel a lot of feelings. just talk to a 13-year-old or read their journals. There's a lot of emotion. For the individual that started drinking young, which I believe Jovi is, I'd be surprised if he started drinking at 21, and his friends and whatnot, that when he was 13 and 15 and having all these just enormous feelings, he was already drinking, maybe just because that's what he was doing, not because it's a way of coping, but just because that's what they did. And then over time, fast forward to 35 or however old he is, he's never gotten used to the feeling of life. He's never been in contact with those emotions because they've always been numbed. And then you're 35 and you stop drinking, and then boom, all these emotions come, and they're like 13-year-old versions, like just raw. There's a benefit to being 13 when you have those emotions because you're still with your parents, hopefully. You don't have a lot of responsibilities. You don't have to go to work in the morning. You don't have to take care of any kids. You don't have to pay bills. You don't have access to substances, hopefully. And so you go through it with your friends and your parents, and you cry into your pillow, and you write bad poetry, and you listen to emo music, and you get through it. But you become acclimated, and by the time you're an adult and you do have responsibilities, then when you experience those feelings, it's not intolerable at this point. So anyway, he veers off, and I'm pretty sure he's going to go drink, not only because of the stress, but also because a lot of drinkers will always drink anyway, but they also will drink on vacation. I think they just arrived, and so there's a really high association of vacationing and drinking. A lot of our mindset of control over our behavior goes out the window when we go on vacation. It's not by default, it's not automatic, but it's our culture, it's the way that we act, right? It's like, on vacation, I don't have to set my alarm, I don't have to watch my diet, and I don't have to refrain from drinking a lot. So, it kind of goes hand in hand. So he veers off, and I'm pretty sure he's going to go drink. It's not the end of the world. He's a grown man. He can have a drink if he wants to. But apparently, he drank a lot, and even admits that he drank too much with Angela. And then they came back to the hotel room, and at 2 a.m, after she had already been asleep, Yara, and tried to convince her to party or something. And then, and Yara was upset about that. And it's such a frat guy kind of thing. I was in a frat. And we would do stuff like that, which is not good, but you're 19 and you're dumb and you're a frat guy. He's a grown man. He shouldn't be doing that. So then Yara says that Angela had a boombox outside and was making all this racket, and Yara wasn't able to sleep at night. And she was upset about it, and Jovi wasn't really being apologetic about it, probably because Jovi knew that really what's being talked about is his drinking, and when you threaten a drinker with the prospect of being disapproving of their drinking, then that defensive part of them will definitely kick in. But it wasn't pronounced. But anyway, so Yara starts to escalate, and then she's like, "You're the problem. You need to go to therapy." And I think maybe, hopefully, what she means is you have a problem, not you are the problem. So, there's that issue, because that's not going to go over well with anyone. It's just like, everything is your fault. So she's saying that, and she's escalating, and she's saying that she might get a divorce, and you have to work on your drinking, I think is what she's saying. Of course, this event last night, being barged in on and woken up, is probably one of thousands of things that have happened that Yara has had to endure. We don't know that, but we could imagine. And they were trying to talk about the pregnancy thing, and Jovi was digging in more. And there's also a possibility that Yara actually feels guilty for having lied to him by omission and is trying to smokescreen a little bit here. I don't know. But this seems... I have a feeling they'll recover, though, because I think their relationship is a lot stronger than it seems like on this show. But it was a pretty raw moment for her. And yeah, she's saying that he needs to get help for his drinking. We don't know, but we could imagine that is an accurate or a wise way of looking at it. If I were there, I would... it's possible that Jovi will respond to this. It is. I wouldn't be surprised. Of people on this show, I think Jovi and Yara are capable of being flexible and hearing someone. It's also possible that he'll dig in his heels, I guess. Well, let's see what happens.
You have a problem. Go to rehab. Go do something to yourself. You have a problem. And I'm so freaking out that you think it's okay to do this to me. I just can't. This is not normal. Bringing someone into my bed, that's not okay. And I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm so freaking hurt right now.
And good for her. That's what I do. What Yara just did. I'm not laughing at her, I'm laughing at me. When I'm flipping out and I have one thread of differentiation left, I'll say something about it. I'm sorry, but I'm flipping out and I'm not being fair, that kind of thing. But I don't know what else to do, and it doesn't excuse everything, but it's a good thing to say when you're flipping out. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm flipping out, but if you can hold on to some level of differentiation and zooming out and be like, you're going a little beyond here. But everything she just said probably is helpful. What he was saying was his main kind of point to her, which is notable, was, look, I don't mind what happened. I just mind that you didn't tell me beforehand. I don't mind. Basically, he's saying, I don't mind that you lied to me about birth control. I mind that you brought it up in front of everyone in therapy. That's not okay. So let me talk about that briefly. A lot of people say, well, that's what therapy is for. That isn't what therapy is for. Therapy is not to out someone or humiliate someone. And so if it comes up, then it comes up. And now it's out in the open, and let's talk about it. I'm glad, it's good that it's come up. It would be weird if it never came up. But the point of therapy is not to humiliate someone. A lot of people think that. Like the Pickle Rick episode, that seemed to be kind of the point, is just like, well, let's put Rick in his place. And that's not what therapy is. There are so many times when I could so easily put someone in their place, but I determine as their clinician that has been hired by them to actually help them, that it would not help them to put them in their place. There's a lot of roads to health. Maybe putting them in their place. I've done that. I've made that call with a small percentage of clients, and the times I remember, it ended up working out or didn't harm the situation, but it's a risk. Anyway, so regarding couples therapy and going to it, yes. In fact, sometimes I'll even detect something's happening and I'll address it. I'll say like, hey, so there's a possibility for the two of you that you might you might know that your partner is not being honest with me. You might know that your partner is spinning things in a way that is self-aggrandizing. And you might have an impulse to say, hey, Kirk, my partner is leaving something out. And, we can talk about that if that's what you want to do, but it's okay. We'll figure it out. If it's something that's a big deal, then by all means, but like safety, if you feel like you're being abused, then we should talk individually about that. The point is that therapy is not about outing someone. It's not about confronting someone. It's not about putting someone in their place. It's not about making someone know that they have a problem. I, as a therapist, people sometimes tell me, like a common example would be I'd be working with a teenager and the parents would say, after a few weeks, they'd call me or email me or something and say, my teenager has totally pulled the wool over your eyes. He's probably telling you that he's okay at home and that he doesn't have a problem and he blames all his problems on me. Well, he has completely bamboozled you. And depending on the situation, at least what I'd be thinking, he hasn't bamboozled me. I'm working with him. I'm starting where he can, if someone is here when they come to therapy, you don't want to bring them all the way to here. You don't want to think that because they can't. You want to bring them, especially in 3 sessions, to here, if that. And then, every step of the way, because you try to go here and at least you're going to be disappointed, but you also could alienate the client. You could hurt their feelings. You could bother them. It could be confusing. It could be too much too fast. So I'm not being bamboozled, but therapy is not about you bringing your 16-year-old to therapy and I just berate him the way that you do at home. That's not what therapy is. I'm sorry that the media has led you to believe that. That's not your fault. But, now at my best, I would take the time to explain. And I had a whole routine with parents around this that I would say something like, the first thing I would do is, because I'm a family therapist, I would, so tell me what you think I should know. And then, just give them a venue. And maybe half of the information or 99% of it was not very helpful to me because it was just kind of reiterating things or telling me that ancillary details that I don't really need to know. But, the parents are important people, of course, in the child's life. And if emotionally they want to get it off their chest, and I've been in that position too as a client sometimes, because I'm a therapist too, and I'll be in therapy sometimes and I'll be like halfway through describing something and I'll be like, I'm sure my therapist is bored by this. And I might even say to my therapist, like, I know you don't need to know all these details, but I feel like I have to work this out in my head. So do you mind if I just kind of blab about this for a second? Or do you have any questions? Because I feel like I'm still kind of working something out. And so, different people are different in that way. But anyway, so, the client is dumping that and it's a lot of it can be useful. I'm taking notes. And it does help because there are chances of being bamboozled, and I don't want to be bamboozled. So anyway, is that a bad word, by the way? I should use tricked. And so I get that, and then I will say, okay, I'll it's good for me to know. And then I would always leave the door open. I say, hey, if there's anything else, let me know. If anything happens in between sessions, any event, any rebellion, any defiance, rule breaking, let me know. I'm open to it because I really would hate it when I would see colleagues of mine, or at least I would lament the treatment that the therapist would say something like, stop telling me this information. It's parents, it makes sense that they would feel like you as the therapist should know about the day-to-day. Plus, the parents are the ones dealing with it. They're on ground level having to pick up the pieces. It's not easy. And they're bringing the kid into therapy because the parents are hoping that you can change it, and that's natural. So for them to tell you ongoing ups and downs, even though for you it's not super relevant, you should honor that. And then I would say to them, to the parents, I had this whole kind of phraseology down. I would say, so parents, I am absolutely understanding, and I would paraphrase them. So you're saying that you want me to do this with the kid, even though in my head I'm like, I don't know about that, but at least I know what they want me to do. And for them to know that is good for them to know that I know that. And I'd say, okay, so parents, trust me that I am working on those things. But if I'm going to actually achieve those goals that you want, and it makes sense that you want those things because you want your kid to be happy and succeed in life. You don't want them running away from home. You don't want them smoking weed every day. You don't want them flunking out of school. That's good. That's because you love your child. And I want those things for him too. And it's going to take me a while to get there. And my method that I have developed over the years, which is usually successful, but not always, is that I can't just blast him and criticize him about that, because he will see me as just another authority figure, like a parent or a teacher who is just yelling at him. What I have to do is get at the root of the issue and figure out what's going on and affect change from within, if you will. And in order to get inside, he has to let me in, and he has to trust me. He has to feel safe with me, and he has a pretty bad attitude about authority, and so he might come home and say things to you that might make it seem like I am approving of his behavior, but I tell you I am not. It doesn't serve him to be smoking weed every day. It doesn't serve him to be flunking out of school. It doesn't serve him to be running away. It doesn't serve him to be stealing cars on the weekends. It doesn't serve him to be in a gang. It doesn't serve him to be shoplifting. It's not helpful to him. But so just know that. And if you want to check in about it, we can check in about it. So, I do that with the parents. Anyway, how to get on that topic? Anyway, with Jovi, I was talking about the couple, right? It's late. I think my wife's in bed already. Let's just start watching again. And I want to honor Yara's pain. It's likely it's absolutely justified. It's been bottled up. And how frustrating it would be, how sad it would be, how hurtful, and how unrelenting it would be, how seemingly unchangeable it would be. That's how it often will feel if you're in her shoes. We don't know what's going on, though. It's really easy to make up a story about what Jovi's drinking is like and what he is doing. We really just don't know. But at the very least, I think Yara's pain is real, and maybe Jovi's as well. And his way is to sit like that and feel ashamed or something. I don't know.
Sorry.
Okay, so Jovi gave it some time, went to her. It's a good move. And, are you doing okay? She says, don't touch me. He says, sorry. He's being soft, near, with her. Shows he cares. He's not doubling down. I mean, think of what Ed would do in this situation, All right, well, let's adjourn there. I want to highlight some individuals who sent in some fan art and gifts and cards for the 15th anniversary that we had in September of 2023. I want to highlight Tercapio, or Teresa from Czechia, I believe, from Czechia. I love her art. She sent in pictures. It reminds me of when I was a kid with 70s sci-fi kind of art, but also the drawings of me and Stacy Umberto are hilarious. I have them on my door. I don't know. There's something really great about them. And I also want to highlight Kate from Sweden, who had made some drawings of Stacy and also a drawing of me with My Dogs Are Barking. Those are also on my door. My dogs are, I just love it. And also Christina and John from Chicago. They sent Umberto and I a Star Wars book for each of us. That was really great. A little card that was very nice. And of course, T-Sky, who sent a nice card and some Scandival shirts, which is fantastic. Also, Caitlin, who sent a postcard with a cat painting that I really liked, and I like the cat painting postcard so much. It's on it's on our console in the living room as a little feature, something to look at. And also Dej from Olympia, who sent some Polaroids of Dej and their partner, and a nice card about me being a surrogate father, which was really nice. It was very, very touching and very meaningful to me. Eliza from Oregon sent a nice card and a satyr, a Virginia satyr coin, because Eliza had been to a Virginia satyr retreat of some sort, and they made these coins, and she gave one to me, which is just really fantastic. Karina from Okanagan in Canada sent a really nice card. And good old Soft Doodles made some comic book art of Berto and me and Rebecca and Bob, and hopefully I have time to show those right here. You can pause them to kind of read them. And I really love what Soft Doodles did, because it reminds me of the 90s when a lot of my friends would be making zines and underground comic books. And so it reminds me of all that kind of time in my life. But mainly the comics really encapsulate each of us really well. It's really interesting to have someone know all four of us that well, but then to make a depiction in comic form that summarizes us to a lot of extent. And also Soft Noodles is in there interacting with us, which I just love. So I want to thank all those people. It really warms the heart. And if I missed anyone, I'm sorry. Or if your card arrived after the 15th anniversary live show, I wouldn't be talking about it here, because I'm recording this soon after the 15th. And but yeah, 15 years, it's pretty amazing. And it was great to be on the live show and to interact with everyone. And right afterwards, I'll tell you that Umberto and I were just euphoric when we finished the 15-hour. Not because we had finished, but because it just felt like it went so well. It felt like supportive and interesting and fun, and there wasn't really any moment where you felt like, what's happening, or I don't like this. We talk into the microphones all the time, and I think especially for Berto, it's an opportunity to be in contact with the fans, and it's just like, oh yeah, they're real human beings here. And so it was a real special moment, and the gifts and the fan art was very much appreciated, and the cards, very kind cards. And so yeah, and everyone, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.